And that's going. Welcome, friends, to Tinkerbell Community Contributors Meeting number 52 for May 10th. We have, looks like a slightly lighter gang today, and so maybe we get through pretty quick. I've dropped a note in the Slack channel. Recording is rolling. New faces. If it's anyone's first time, would love to hear what you're working on, what brings you.
Hey, I'm Todd. I work for AWS, and I work on the Carpenter autoscaler. And I've been talking to Micah, and he'd asked about my scheduling work, and had asked me to look at maybe adding some code to the Tinkerbell. And so I put up a PR last week that added required and preferred hardware affinities. So he wanted me to attend to see if there are any questions about that. So.
Excellent. Welcome, and thanks for stopping in. We will have a look over that. Also a good time to remind folks who are here or watching in the future of Code of Conduct. That's linked inside the Tinkerbell GitHub repository. Quite simply, be excellent to each other, whether that's in code review or in chat or on video here. Doesn't look like there is show and tell. We can hop back if the doc gets updated. I will drop a link to the doc in the chat here in case anyone has not been across it. But if you're here, it's likely you have doc access. And a late good morning and welcome to Jason.
Hey, folks.
Hey, Jason.
Can then hop into topic number one, maybe, and then we'll jump back to show and tell if more appear. From Jacob, admin roles in the community. What's up?
Yeah, so it's just a quick shout out. We've bootstrapped all of the repos with their different roles. So really excited about that. As a part of the governance, there's still a few outstanding tasks. One of them is the admin role, and it was proposed in the governance. Let me see if I can link the governance doc here in the chat real quick. It was proposed in the governance that admins be created, and the GitHub admins basically, right? And the governance outlines how that would happen, and that would be through maintainers who would nominate these people, and then they would get the access. So I see a few, actually have a good number of maintainers. We've got, I think, 4 maintainers at the moment on the call, but maybe we can just start a list of individuals maybe or something that we want to throw in, and then we can just follow back around next time. I mean, I'd like to get it in sooner rather than later, but it's not well, it might be stopping a few things, but it's not stopping anything at the moment that I know of. But yeah, I would like to say that the role of admin in the GitHub org gives you all the permissions of a maintainer plus additional ones. And so it is my proposal that admins come from the maintainers group, just because it's a superset of maintainers anyway. So curious what people's thoughts are, if there's anybody who's interested in being an admin. I know there might be some concerns about certain secrets, or if we're running like on-prem GitHub runners or something for access at Equinix. Jeremy, do you know if that's a concern at all, or can we have an admin that's a non-Equinix person? Or oh, you might be on mute.
Not sure of that situation, but it makes perfect sense to have a set of admins from a variety of organizations.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I can check back in with folks to make sure that if there's anything that needs to get tidied up, but I'm certainly in favor of of adding folks from different orgs.
Okay. Anybody have any nominations, I guess, at the moment for admins?
You.
Just me? Okay. I feel like Jeremy, maybe you or Marcus might be interested. I don't know.
Yeah, you could drop both of us there.
Okay. See if I can spell his name right
Got it.
here. 2 S is nice. Okay.
What will we do with this? Are we gonna, assuming people are happy to take on the responsibility, are we just gonna vote them in and just say, yep, away we go?
Yeah, I think so.
As in, like, all maintainers want to cast a vote. I don't know how much opportunity we want to give people is what I'm kind of trying to gauge.
Yeah, that's fair. Here's my initial thought. We've got a few suggested admins. I'll pull maybe in the Slack channel. I'll ping a couple other maintainers maybe directly, and then maybe once I get enough feedback, then I'll just cast a vote in Slack channel as well to the, again, because this is going to be a maintainers vote. No reason we can't do it in public per se. I don't know how we want to do it. Do we want to do the voting in public or not? I'm personally trying to err on the side of just being public about everything, but I don't know if voting about admins is going to be controversial or not. But that was sorry, back to your question though, Chris. Yeah, that was my general thought. Maybe I can just kind of push this along, get feedback of who would be interested, and then call for a vote. And then if it goes, once the ballots are back or whatever, then we can work with existing admins to get these new admins created, excuse me, and then go from there. Does that seem reasonable? Have any other suggestions? I'm open to other ideas too.
Oh, sounds good.
Okay. I'm good there unless anybody else has any other thoughts or opinions.
All right. I think Chris is up next. Hegel APIs.
Yeah, I don't know if we have the right forum here, but long story short, Hegel claims to be EC2 compliant in terms of the metadata it spits out. That's false. So I would like to, I don't want to get rid of the stuff that's there necessarily, but I would like to basically tender a proposal that allows us to boot Hegel with a particular API exposed or set of APIs, assuming they don't clash, and to configure the backend for the data source. And have a nice design that basically lets you, I mean, not every data source will necessarily complement every API because you need to have one-for-one matching for endpoints to data, but I'm sure we can enforce that through compile time with interfaces and whatnot, no problem. And yeah, my intent really is to bring about an extensible Hegel that can support Equinix metadata and EC2 metadata. The reason the EC2 metadata is important is because Cloud Init does want that, and we have at AWS we have a custom demand to be able to configure metadata per instance. And given we're using the Cloud Init process, yeah, we're kind of interested in getting EC2 metadata exposed.
Curious, you might have opened a ticket already. Is this maybe why Cloud Init isn't working with?
Right.
Okay, so it's just because it doesn't match the spec that it's expecting?
Yeah, Cloud Init does not support Equinix Metal instance metadata currently. So there are a couple of overlapping fields with EC2 metadata that it's probably leveraging in some capacity. I mean, it's interesting how Cloud Init works. It's a set of modules, and I think modules can choose to use that metadata if they want to. I'm not 100% because I haven't dived into it, but yeah, long story short, it's not working in full because it's not EC2 metadata.
Makes sense. Yeah, personally, I don't see, I think this, I'd approve a proposal right away on that. That seems pretty reasonable and helpful.
Yeah, it's just introducing, I mean, it's already the concept of the data model. I think that's a bit convoluted, and we might benefit in renaming that slightly just across the project, because it is associated with a version right now. It's data model version, and that's no longer true. There are just different data sources, and they themselves could be versioned. So yeah, it's a slightly different thing. So we might want to move away from that. But then the second logical component is the API you want to launch with. And the idea being that if you know, two APIs, regardless of what technology they're using, gRPC, HTTP, whatever, assuming they don't clash in gRPC, they never would clash. But assuming that, well, unlikely to clash, assuming they don't clash, the endpoints don't clash, then you can have as many metadata APIs exposed as you want simultaneously. There's no reason you couldn't do that. And I know Equinix have that use case. They want to expose gRPC metadata and the Equinix HTTP, raw HTTP metadata. So that's what this would facilitate.
I like that quite a bit, actually. Not bring your own metadata, but like basically it is like you could implement any different variants you want. So if there's something, for example, in Cloud.init, a different data source that you're interested in, like, why not, right? I think that's actually really cool.
Right. There is actually room. You could go, I mean, you could take this to infinite lengths, right? You could install a plugin, a data source plugin logical component that is essentially just calling out to another service that has all the logic for the data. It's a bit extreme right now, but yeah,
Sure.
you could do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hey, Chris, I've dug into this quite a bit in the past, both with Tinkerbell and in previous projects, both on the Cloud.init side and the server side. So I'm more than happy to sync up with you at some point outside of this meeting and share my experiences and help out however I can.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
Is there a proper proposal for that one that could be linked in the contributor doc?
There is the beginnings of a discussion that I can link. One's off the back of an issue that found, you know, that the EC2 metadata isn't right. It's not EC2 metadata, and then the other one is an issue I raised just before I realized that, around the idea of having configurable APIs exposed. So I can link both of those just for context.
Yeah, I mean, especially as we have a few folks who are probably interested, but not in the meeting, getting that into the doc. So.
Yep.
But you don't have to scrub the videos, a little bit easier.
Okay, so action point, I'll put something more formal together beyond these issues, and then circulate it in conjunction with linking up with Jason. It is Jason, right? Debt beer is your handle. Or
Yeah,
Detiba. I don't know how to pronounce your surname either. That's it for that point.
Good morning, Micah. Next up, Jacob again. Lower governance requirement for roles.
Yeah, so I'm curious what people would think. After bootstrapping the roles, we found some repos. So some of the requirements for different roles just didn't make sense for some of the repos. Like you needed 20 significant reviews or 20 reviews and 5 significant PRs. Some of the repos, for example, this was specific to Eagle actually. I don't even think the history of the repo had that many per person or something. So it seems like in a nice iterative approach, we got our governance out, but it feels like we should come back and revisit it. I should come back. So I'd just be curious, if I were to lower it, are there any thoughts or opinions right out the gate, or would people be interested in just checking it out and seeing how low I go, I guess? Bad pun, maybe.
Yeah, I think biasing towards ease of onboarding as opposed to unnecessary gatekeeping is probably the direction to move. And yeah, once it becomes a problem and there's too many folks who want to be a part of things for whatever value too many is, then that's a problem for later. But the problem for now is more on the not enough side, I think.
Right. Yeah, for me, I like that ease of lower barrier to entry to contributing and approving, et cetera. There's a small amount of balance, I think, in terms of like, obviously we want to have good code ownership and people that are responsive and have a valued interest in the maintaining the code in a, high standard and whatnot. But yeah, I think we're just a little bit too high. So sounds like I should just throw the PR out then. Does that seem reasonable to everybody? Any other thoughts or suggestions? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I threw a comment down there because I thought I'd raised a PR with some suggestions already, but maybe I haven't.
Yeah,
because we were talking about this offline.
Yeah.
I'll double check, but if I've not, then yeah, ignore that comment. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I will. I'll browse around for that too, Chris, and then either way, I'll look to add a PR into our governance and get that one moving.
Yeah, if
Thanks.
that pops up, go link it in the doc, and then it'll be easy enough to track down. Stays with Jacob. KubeCon meetup.
Yeah, so we're a week away, if I'm not mistaken. I was going to be there. I would enjoy meeting people if people are around. I think it'd be fun. I don't know, to grab something to eat or just hang out. I don't know how we coordinate that in a manageable way, but I thought I'd throw it out there that I'd love to meet people if people are going.
Yeah, I think I would say of Tinkerbell folks, probably maybe 8 of us, including yourself and others who I think might be there. We can probably either vector in on it, depending on how official you want to be, either vector in on each other via CNCF Slack, which then will has the added effect of collecting other folks who are in the Slack, but not as up on the meetings.
Okay. I like that. I could go that route.
Fun fact, I told somebody I'm going with in AWS my seat number and the second leg that I'm on, and they decided to choose the seat behind me. So I now need to put up with them kicking me in the back.
That and a polarized filter for your laptop screen only works from side on, and so now you have a entirely different threat model too.
Oh, I'm not familiar with doodle.com. What is that, Jason?
We've used that sometimes in the Kubernetes community. It's just like a tool where you can punch in availability and then send out the link, and then other people can add their availability, and then like it allows you to narrow in a little bit more quickly on, what times may work for the most people.
Awesome.
Especially with as crazy as KubeCon scheduling can get. The other advice that I have there is generally it's a lot harder to find time where everybody's available in the afternoons, especially this close to the event. I found it's usually easier to get people together around like breakfast time before the keynote start and that sort of thing. Less people schedule a lot of stuff around that time.
Awesome. That's helpful. Thanks, Jason. Cool. That's all I had for that one. I could jump to the next one too if you want me to there, Jeremy. Okay.
Yep.
And I'm glad to see Jason here because we've been talking about a sandbox update for a little bit now. There's a lot of coolness that has dropped recently that I'm super excited about. The biggest one is the Kubernetes. If I'm not mistaken, correct me, anybody, if I'm wrong, but I think any service that has a backend, it's now has a Kubernetes option to it, which is really awesome. And I'd love to see that maybe be the default in the sandbox, which would be really cool. And then the other big change is, I think, in my opinion, since Sandbox is supposed to be the quote unquote easiest way to stand up the Tinkerbell stack, the no TLS option I think would be huge. There have been numerous people I watch in the CNCF channel where people just keep banging their heads on TLS certificates and whatnot. And while they're needed, and I think we still need to solve that problem, I think I'd love to see them just gone. Like, let's just, for the sandbox, it'd be cool. They're just out of there because they cause so much headache. So I think most of the PRs, Jason, for like the tagging that you did to all the repos, I think those should be merged. So I guess maybe my question is there any outstanding feature that anybody can think of that's like maybe ready to go or almost ready to go that we should wait for? Because otherwise I might try and jump on this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so I was telling Micah earlier today that I'm finally, treading water at the new gig. So
Nice.
that's why I've been kind of absent for the past couple of weeks after my vacation. But I want to start digging in, and Friday is a travel day for me. So I was planning, while sitting on the plane and, in airports and really not having anything to do, like pick back up and, try to get things going again. And the sandbox would definitely be the first place where I would start there. So I'm more than happy to dig into that, figure out, what's broken as we update things in sandbox. Work with folks. I don't know how my access looks anymore between the employment change and the maintainer roles and that sort of thing. So I may have some blockers there where I need to coordinate with other folks, but work on getting those semantic version tags for the individual components published. And then we can go ahead and start seeing what it takes to update the sandbox. I know I had started testing that about a month ago now, but I couldn't tell you where that left off. And I know Mike has been doing some work on updating the cluster API provider Tinkerbell stuff. So I'll sync up with him and find out how things look there, because that'll probably drive what the sandbox updates actually need to look like as well. So exciting times, I think.
Awesome. Great. Maybe I'll just ping you if I get around to it this week before KubeCon. If not, maybe after or during or something. So
yep.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
From Chris, architecture meeting question. Do we want the architecture meeting focused towards maintainer discussion on architecture, but public?
Yeah, so I know Jacob, this is more just a question to the group, I suppose. We talked last time about a focused Arch-based meet to talk design and stuff like that, technical focus. But when Jacob and I were chatting the other day, we were kind of wondering, is it necessary to have a separate meeting? So and nobody actually said that they would champion this. People were interested, including me, but we didn't actually have a champion. So I just wanted to tender the thought again and ask, do we definitely think we want this, or can we just use this meeting and that's it?
I would tend to initially use this meeting until it becomes too big to fit, or folks who want to be here can't. But this time seems to work for enough of us, and but I think we could probably squeeze architecture chat in if we throw that as a topic before the meeting happens, or like know what's going to be discussed, if there's any background information or run up that should be absorbed before that happens. But yeah, I'm certainly also willing to hear counter too.
Jacob and I had the same thought in the end.
Yeah, I'll throw real quick. I mean, it seems like, yeah, like you said, Jeremy, we could just throw the topic, maybe even with a little note to say like, hey, we're hoping to take the bulk of the time or something like that, just so people are aware. But yeah, I think I like the idea of just using this time, but just kind of shift the focus and say, hey, we're going to do roadmap, we're going to do architecture, design, milestones. We've talked about those kinds of things. Why not just do them in this meeting? So.
Yeah, it's already a spot blocked off in the schedule of the most interested parties, I think. And so trying to add another one off is trickier.
That sounds good. Do we just update the agenda template? It's about as official as it gets right now.
Yeah.
So that idea is officially nuked. Done. It lasted a total of 2 weeks. Great.
Back to Jacob for library for Kubernetes backend clients. Also Chris question mark.
Yeah, sorry, bad wording, I guess. But Chris, this is something we talked about. I think you were interested in bringing it up. I didn't want to kind of steal your thunder or anybody. Is that something you would want to talk about, or I can talk about it too if you want?
We can both talk about it, preferably not at the same time.
Ready, go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just had this thought that I spent to Micah and then subsequently Jacob about creating a new repo for data sources. And it's unclear at the moment whether it's absolutely needed because we don't know what the shared code is necessarily, but there is definitely some shared code between all major services, Tink, Hegel, and Boots, with respect to like Kubernetes in particular. That's where AWS has largely been focused. And just tendering the thought that maybe if you centralized like data sources, like I was talking about with Hegel, how you could have different data sources as one of those logical components. That seems to feature in like all services. So if you had a repository that housed data sources, you don't necessarily need one per data source. Not yet anyway. I don't think there's enough code for that, but that could be advantageous because it could provide the back end for the services and complement the APIs they require. So that was my train of thought. I don't know if you have additions to that, Jacob. And like I say, we'd need to just clarify exactly what is shared and what could be, what would feature in that to define it a little better before making a decision on whether it's appropriate. But that's where my head's at right now.
So is this mostly around like the Kubernetes API types and being able to build up a typed client from those, or?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. My take, I don't have enough experience using kind of the Kubernetes Go libraries and understanding, is that a lot of code, is it a little code? And I mean, obviously different services care about specific parts maybe, right? Like I'm thinking Boots maybe only really cares about hardware, same with Hegel. But those are the only three, right? We're talking like Tink, Boots, Hegel. Does it make sense to like pull those out? Is that enough? Like you were talking about, is that enough code in general, Chris? Like, yeah, I'm not aware enough to really opine about that. How do you say it?
So that's a common pattern to have the API definition and type clients being generated in another repository so that they can be reused by multiple things. So I think that makes a lot of sense. If we were talking about more than that, I'd want to figure out, what, because then we can start getting into weird anti-patterns potentially. But I think if we're just talking about the API types and the generated type client, I think that's probably a good start. You can add some code like validation and defaulting and stuff like that to it. But if you get beyond that and trying to put like server-side code in there, then it gets kind of a little weird.
Yeah, that makes me think about the history of some of the different libraries actually in the Tinkerbell stack. The one that stands out most is packet host / PKG that has logging and server stuff. And like, I'm not a big fan of that model. It became, it's got environment variable stuff. It's got, anyways, I wasn't a big fan of how that changed, or I don't know, morphed, or what it became into. So I will definitely not want us to create another one of those. But yeah, if we could keep the scope maybe very clear and as small as possible, it seems reasonable.
I was also, I haven't looked into whether or not this would work, but I was also curious because Hegel seems to have a ton of dependencies. And it just doesn't make any sense to me why that's the case. Like, I was curious if you had a Kubernetes focused API and client repo, and you decoupled, started to think about what it would mean to decouple from like the Tink repo, how would that affect the dependency tree, and would it improve that? I'm not sure. Again, needs an investigation, but food for thought.
Yeah. Cool.
I will go ahead and try and do an initial investigation and then present it. Either probably in the next, I've got a lot going on in the next couple of weeks, so probably in about 4 weeks.
Awesome, thanks.
Sounds good. Stays with Chris for Rufio.
Yeah, just a shout out, Rufio, the unconfirmed name repo has had stuff thrown in it. We're building that out now. There's some more PRs going in gradually, but yeah, go check it out. That's all it is really. It's just a call out. Keep an eye on it.
Are you supposed to, I mean, I feel like with its name, you have to call it out in a very specific way.
Rufio, not trademarked, not copyrighted, nothing to do with us. We don't own it. I promise. I don't know. I don't know what the legal call out is.
I thought you were going
what was the acronym again?
Oh, there was some really good ones. I was going a little different. I was going a little different tact actually there. I don't know if you've seen the movie Hook, right?
Rufio.
Oh yeah.
Rufio.
Right.
Oh God.
But we
Anyways.
actually can't do that one, so just rewind that. That didn't happen. Nothing to do with the movie. It's all about the backronym.
That's what I'm saying. It's nothing.
That's
It's
true.
nothing to
Sorry.
do with no copyright, no trade, nothing.
I completely broke that right there. Sorry.
All right. I think that brings us to the end, unless there's new show and tell topics, which there are not. Any last moment additions?
There is one off the back of what Todd was talking about. Actually, I looked at your thing, Todd. I didn't give any feedback. Micah asked me to look at it, but off the back of what Todd did in Cluster API, Tinkerbell, that we're looking to add additional capabilities, resource-based scheduling, and if it makes sense, I'm not sure it does right now, but some sort of topology-related scheduling, dependent on what customers need. But yeah, so watch this space for that, because it's going to be interesting.
Excellent.
I've got the emails in place for that CNCF Zoom stuff. So hopefully by next week we'll have
Nice.
something real. But if not, you know, expect it's a busy set of weeks. So maybe it'll take a little longer.
Oh, good point. Next week, triage party, would we want to postpone that or do like a live KubeCon triage, or what's the thought? Last time, I think in the fall, we ended up postponing the meeting. Is probably seems like a reasonable thing. Do we want to do that? I could send an email to the distribution list like I did, I think, last time. What is the thoughts?
It'd be like late in day on Tuesday, right? So for folks who are going there, it might be not ideal. I think it's fine to postpone for what it's worth. Just one.
Yeah, that's also the triage party, not the meeting. And so the meeting will be, I think we'll all be back around in another 2 weeks, or just have returned or something like that. So meeting can stay. The triage party, update the Slack if someone's very interested in doing one, and we can keep it on, but letting the understanding that it probably won't happen is probably what will go on.
Okay, I could take an action item then to either email the distro list or just update in Slack or something like that.
Sounds good. We will see those of you that we see at KubeCon, Cloud Native Con, and otherwise we'll be in 2 weeks at number 53 already. All right, bye for now, y'all.
Ciao.
Yeah.